evening, everyone. Gina Oliveros here. We're going to go ahead and start with our introductions. I am Gina with Lux Coastal Collection here in Irvine, Newport Beach. And the reason that we're here this evening is that once we know what can happen when someone's property is not in a trust, it is our responsibility to make sure everyone's educated, and then hopefully everyone will be protected. So really that was my heart, to share this piece of information with all the homeowners so that their property is protected and of course their beneficiaries, okay? So I've been in real estate as far as Gina, I've been in real estate, yes. Hello, Anna, good evening, how are you?
Hello, good, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Been in real estate for almost a decade. Next year will be 10 years in real estate. Of course, I began on the inside working in the office, and now I'm in full-time sales. And so it's just a joy to be in this business. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the talking feather over to Josie. She'll tell us a little bit about her background. Josie, we're looking forward to hearing about you. Then we'll go to Rosalinda. And the three of us, of course, are the real estate agents. And then we'll pass it over to Sarah for the good stuff. All right, Josie, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. I am Josie Jellick with Century 21 Masters, and I've been selling real estate for 33 years in Southern California. So I believe totally that if you have any property or any assets, you should have a trust. We've seen over the years of selling and helping people sell their properties that if they don't have a trust, it takes so much longer, they lose so much money, they argue. It's just not a good example to be in or place to be in. So you need to protect your assets for you and your family, and direct the trust directs how you want your assets distributed after your death. So thank you for showing up here, and I know you'll get a lot out of this program. So I guess Rosalinda.
Hey guys, yes, thank you, Josie. Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Sarah, everyone, for helping us put this together. So my name is Rosalinda, and I've been in real estate for 17 years now. So I have seen the ups and downs, and I've seen with the Hispanic community that I work with, a lot of them don't have trust. A lot of them don't know what trusts are. And a lot of them will try to like add their kids on title or do these other things that at the end are more of a nightmare. So I'm sure, you know, all of us have heard something or the other, you know, in regards to this, but I think it's great that we can get this education, especially right now with the Zoom and the technology, take advantage from the, you know, from our home. So I'm glad that all of you guys can join us today. Hopefully this hour you'll get all the education information that you need. Please feel free to ask the questions, I believe towards the end of of Sarah speaking. But thank you again for joining us and for giving us 1 hour of your Friday afternoon here. So thank you guys and enjoy.
Hello, everyone. My name is attorney Sarah Rinelli. I have been an attorney for 9 years now. I went to Whittier Law School in Costa Mesa, California. And before I talk about trust, I want to talk a little bit about myself and my family, because I use my family as the example. And I come from a very old school Italian family. My father was the kind of guy who was always looking for the loophole, and he was always looking for a good deal. And part of the reason he was always looking for a good deal is because, you know, him and my mother, they graduated high school and they started working immediately, and they never went to college, and they've been working really hard their whole lives. And everything that they have, they earned. So they're always looking for a good deal, and they're always looking for a way to save a buck. So when I was in high school and I was telling my parents that, you know, I want to go to college, my mother said, honey, why do you want to go to college? Why don't you just settle down and be a nice boy? I said, I can see your faces, girls. And I said, Mom, you know, maybe one day I'll meet a nice boy, but it's not like it used to be for your generation. My generation, we have to go to college, you know? And so when I went to college, she wasn't very happy about it. And when I graduated college, I said, Mom, I really want to go to law school. I have great grades. I really think I'd be a good lawyer. Once again, she said, honey, why don't you just settle down and meet a nice boy? And of course, I didn't listen to her. I went to college and I went to law school, and I did great in law school. While I was in law school, I worked for the district attorney's office in Orange County on Harbor Boulevard. And I worked for the public defender's office in Santa Ana, and decided I didn't want to do criminal law. It just isn't very pleasant. Criminals really don't like the lawyers, and so I decided I wanted to do something that was a little bit nicer for the world, giving back a little bit. So I did living trust with a lady who was in Newport, and she was like my mentor. She was, beautiful and smart, and she had the high rise in Newport Beach overlooking the ocean with this gorgeous conference room. She had really nice clothes, and she said, Sarah, why don't you do living trusts? It's a very pleasant, area of law. You get to meet with people that are just trying to make sure that if they pass away, they're taking care of their kids. And she said, there's not a lot of drama. You get to set your own hours. You get to pay before you do any, you get paid before you do any work. So it's kind of nice. And so when I was in law school, she would meet with the client and I would type the trust. And even though I wasn't a lawyer yet, I was doing all the paperwork. And largely it's because, as you guys know, trusts are templates, right? I mean, there's a template for everything. We plug in a lot of the information, but 95% of a trust is the same for everybody. So she would meet with the client and I would type the trust, and I got very good at it. And one day she said to me, Sarah, why don't you sit in the meeting with me and the client and you could see how we interact? And I said, yeah, of course, I want to learn everything you do. And so she met with a retired doctor, and she asked him a lot of questions about his family, about his family tree, about his finances, about his real estate. And at the end of the consultation, she said, Doctor, I would love to do this living trust for you, and I'm only going to charge you $12,000. And he said, okay. And my jaw hit the ground because I thought, $12,000 to do a living trust, that's pretty good. I'm going to be rich. I can't wait to do living trusts. Now, when I graduated from law school and I told that lady attorney I wanted her to start paying me now, I don't want to be an intern. I want to be a paid lawyer on staff. I've passed the bar. She said, honey, thanks for your time, but I'm going to get another law student. It's free help, right? So I worked for another law firm, and as soon as I got enough knowledge, I opened up my own practice. And I do it very differently than a lot of other attorneys do their pricing and their process. What I do is I charge $1,598 for a living trust. I charge a very affordable rate. My average client is, mom and pops, they've got one bank account, one house, or, a couple bank accounts and an IRA and, a house and a rental. And $1,598 is a lot of money for some people, but, compared to what the other attorneys charge, it's cheap. Now, what I do is if I have a group webinar or seminar, I get to talk to more than one person at a time. So I could charge a cheaper price. So if you come to a webinar like we're having now, and you sit through the whole process, I get to give you all the same basic information as if I was meeting with you one-on-one. But because we're doing it in a group, I get to talk to multiple people, and I can now do the trust for a cheaper price. So if you come to the seminar and you decide you want to hire us and hire our law firm for a living trust, I will give you Gina's group rate, and that's going to be $799. But the catch is it is due, that's a great price, but it's due after the seminar is over. You've got 1 hour to call the office. And I'm going to post all the office information in the chat here. But our phone number is 949-674-6591. And I'm going to type that in a minute. So my secretary, Lisa, as you know, it's Friday night. She's going to be waiting for phone calls. She'll be on the phone lines for about 1 hour after the seminar concludes. If you decide you want to do it and you give her your credit card information, she's going to charge your credit card tonight and she's going to get you started on the process. And if you decide you don't want to sign up tonight, you call me, next week, next month. Of course, I'll do the trust for you, but you won't get the group rate. It'll be $15.98. Now, part of the reason that we do this group rate also is because a lot of people, they know they need a trust, but they procrastinate. And I'm trying to give you a push to get it done. So today we're going to talk about what a trust is and how it works. If you have any questions, type your question in the chat, and I'm going to have time at the end for question and answers also. But hold your questions on the microphone, like don't verbalize them until the end, because I promise you, chances are I'll get to your question during the process, and we kind of get sidetracked really quickly if I start doing questions and answers in the middle. So back to my parents, Sylvia and Dennis Rinelli. I want to show you a picture of what they look like. This is my mom and dad, and they're just the typical family. They had 2 daughters, myself and my little sister Denise. And when mom and dad were trying to plan for the future, they wanted to make sure that when they died, my sister and I got everything. So my parents, they talked to all their friends, and all their friends were telling them, you need a will. I mean, that's what everybody used to say, right? You need a will, you need a will. So my parents hired a local attorney, and he typed them a will. And the will was pretty basic. It said, if I die, I want my spouse to get everything. And if my spouse is not living, I want my 2 daughters, Sarah and Denise, to inherit everything 50-50. Very basic, very standard. The attorney typed everything. My parents signed it. A couple of the secretaries came in and they signed it as witnesses. And then mom and dad brought the will. They brought it home. They put it right in the safe that's in the house. And they thought that they had done everything they needed to do. Now, let's say a little bit of time goes by and my parents do pass away. When parents pass away, the kids are going through a lot of stuff. Obviously they're grieving, they're emotional, they're stressed out. But more importantly, a lot of kids don't know what they're supposed to do with the house, with the finances. They hear a lot of advice from friends and family, but they don't know what they're supposed to really do. I know that when my parents passed away, I knew that they had money saved somewhere, but I didn't know what bank. I knew that they had retirement accounts, but I didn't know what bank it was with. I wasn't even really sure if the house was paid off or not. So I went to mom and dad's house and I just kind of looked through all their paperwork. And that's where a lot of kids start. They just go through the house and they look for whatever looks helpful. When I went to mom and dad's house, I went through their mail, computer, office, filing cabinets. I went through the computers. I went through everything I could get my hands on. I even opened the safe. When I was going through mom and dad's mail, I found their Bank of America statements. Mom and dad had checking account at Bank of America, and they had some money saved. And I found their Charles Schwab statements. Didn't know mom and dad had stock, but they had money saved there. When I opened the safe, I found the will. I found the deed to the house. I found the title to the cars. So I was starting to feel like maybe I had a grasp on the situation. I decided that I was, in order to pay for the funeral and all the final bills, I was going to go down to Bank of America, withdraw the money, use it to pay for the bills. And if there was any money left over, my sister and I could just split the money 50-50. When I went to the bank, does anybody have any guesses what I should bring to the bank with me? Well,
Joe,
A death
Are you
Death
ready?
certificate.
death certificate, they're not going to talk to me without a death certificate, right?
right.
I'm going to bring my birth certificate maybe to show that I'm the daughter. I'm going to bring the statements that I found. I don't know. I'll bring the will. I'll even bring my sister, you know, so everybody knows that we're on the same page. When I go to the bank and I tell the teller that my parents have died and I show them the death certificate, they gave me some bad news. Girls, your names are not on the bank accounts. If you want access to the money, I'm sorry, you have to come back with a court order. You have to go through probate. And I said, no, I don't. I have a will. They said, girls, we can't accept a will. The only thing that we can accept is a court order. Your names are not on the accounts. Go ask a judge to put your names on the account. That's called probate. Now, this was kind of a shock to us because we thought that that's what the will was going to do, get us access to the bank accounts. But unfortunately, it did not help. Now, I know most of you have checking and savings accounts. And there is a loophole if you have a checking and savings account so that the family doesn't have to go through probate. If mom and dad, before they died, had told the bank they wanted us to get the money, the bank would have typed it in their records. It is called a beneficiary designation. I'm going to type it into the margin here.
I was going to guess that. I think that's one of the last forms that sometimes it's easy to just skip over.
They don't even ask anymore. They don't even ask at the bank. You know, they don't care. It's called a beneficiary designation, also known as pay on death. You guys have heard it before. The problem with my parents is they had opened these accounts before we were even born. So, you know, they didn't know they were supposed to ask. When we went to Schwab told us the exact same thing. Girls, your names are not on the accounts. You can't have the money. You need to go through probate. So we're starting to panic because we had no access to mom and dad's cash and we had no way to pay for the funeral and the bills for the house. So I decided we need to get this house on the market quick because we need to pay for stuff. And when I pull out the deed from the safe and I take a look at the deed, guess whose names are on the deed?
Parents.
Mom and dad. And guess whose names are not on the deed? Me and my sister.
Rinelli.
Right. So Josie, Gina, Rosalinda, if our names are not on the deed, can we sell the house?
No.
No. It has to be the person on title. I was going to say Ingrid came off mute. Did you want to guess too, Ingrid? Oh, she's just listening. Go ahead.
So we can't sell the house. We can't sell the house. We have to go to court in order to sell the house because our names are not on the deed. Now, for most of you, you have beneficiaries on your bank accounts. And I know you have beneficiaries on your IRA and your 401k. They won't even sign you up for a policy without a beneficiary on file. But your house doesn't have a beneficiary. So that's the problem. The rule is, if you own real estate, you have a probate problem. Now, in order for my sister and I to sell this house, we have to go to court. We have to go through the whole probate process. And it's going to cost us an arm and a leg. The judge is going to look at how much the house is worth. He's going to look at how much money is in the bank accounts. And he's going to put a value on the estate. Our fees are a percentage off the top of the value of the estate. Now, there's a complicated formula for figuring out how much me and my sister are going to end up paying in probate fees. But my parents' house is worth about $1 million. And our probate fees are probably going to ultimately cost about $80 in fees. Now, I know for some of you guys, $80,000 is not a lot of money, but for my family, it's crazy. That money goes to the courts, the executor, the lawyer, but it doesn't go to us. And I know my mom and dad have worked very, very hard for their stuff. To have it go to probate fees is awful. And wealthy folks, they know about this, so they get living trust done. They want to protect every single penny that they have. The well-educated and the wealthy know how to preserve their wealth. And unfortunately, the rest of us are kind of left to fend for ourselves to try to figure it out. So we're starting to see a lot more, normal mom and pop's families talking to their family and talking to their friends about what happens if you have no documents. How does probate work? So the realtors that have invited you today are doing this because they love you, because they've seen it. So my sister and I have a will that didn't really help us. We have to go to court. We have to pay through the nose. And by the way, we have to go to court for about 2 years before we can sell the house. Rosalinda and Josie, let me ask you a question. If there's a mortgage on the house, do we have to pay the mortgage in the meantime?
Of course.
Of course you do.
What happens if we can't afford it? We are paying our own mortgage on our house. We've got our own bills.
Foreclosure.
Yeah, they'll take over. The bank will take it back.
In your experience, have you ever seen people struggling to get the mortgage paid because the kids don't have the money?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, right. I mean, we've seen people be distressed and trying to sell their house distressed because they can't afford to pay the bills. And it's especially difficult when you've just lost your parent. You've got your own family, you've got your own life. Maybe some of the kids aren't even old enough to even work yet. For them to have to pay the bills is crazy. So you start to see the kids fighting over cash. That's what happens. Or they lose the house to foreclosure. Let me ask you ladies another question. If the house is paid off totally, are there other bills that the kids might have to pay while they're going through probate?
Yep.
Of course. Taxes.
Taxes.
Insurance.
Yeah, insurance. Like someone's got to mow the lawn and keep the lights on, right? Yeah. So even if your house is paid off, there are still overhead that the kids have to worry about. And they're handcuffed for 2 years going through court. That's why so many people have a living trust. They do not want their kids to suffer if they pass. Now, let me give you another scenario. What happens if mom and dad had no will and no trust and then they died? Can we sell the house? The answer is no. Still, we have to go to court. We have to still pay the same fees. It still takes 2 years, except now the judge is going to figure out how to split up the money at the end. He doesn't even know my parents and he's just going to figure it out. And you guys have seen it when somebody passes away, people get real nasty. I mean, it's crazy. You've all heard the story. The person hasn't even been buried and people are fighting over the cash and the stuff. So money makes people stressed. And if there's no will and there's no trust, the judge is going to make the determination and the kids start fighting with each other in front of a judge. So how do we avoid probate? Well, you're out of options, guys. So, a living trust, also known as a revocable living trust, also known as, I mean, on the street, people just call it a trust, but a trust is a document that you create while you're alive so that after you pass away, your family has a little bit easier of a time. Now, I'm going to use my parents as the example again. By the way, my parents are alive and well. They're fine. They were my first clients, you know. So mom and dad, they have a living trust, and it's called the Rinelli Family Trust. And their house and their bank accounts are in the trust. And the trust says that when they pass away, we inherit everything 50-50. We don't own anything until they have both passed away. It's not ours until they're gone. And if mom and dad want to sell everything and go party in Vegas, it's their money, right? They can do whatever they want. There is no restrictions on somebody that has a trust. It's still their stuff. They can still buy a new house, sell their house, you know, do whatever they want. But when they pass away, the kids do not have to go to court. So I'm going to give you guys some definitions. I'm going to put them on the screen here. And I'll use my parents as the example again. My parents, if they set up the trust, they are still the owners. They own the trust, they own the house, they own the bank accounts. You guys might all want to pull out some paper for this too, because if you write down these definitions, it's going to make your life a lot easier in the future. There is a special word for the owner of a trust. It is called a trustor. While mom and dad are alive, they own the trust, the house, the bank accounts. They are the trustors. Second definition, mom and dad are also the managers while they are alive. They manage their finances. They are the trustees. They're the owners and the managers. Trustor, trustee. Now, when mom and dad pass away, there is a special word for the manager after death. Some people call it an executor. That's not the right word. Some people call it an administrator. That's not the right word. The special word for a manager after death for a trust is called a successor trustee.
Successor trustee. Got it.
Successor trustee. So who do you guys think my parents chose to be their successor trustee?
You.
I thought they were going to choose me too. But here's what my mother said. She said, Sarah, I love you and your sister both equally. You're both very responsible. I want you to work together. I want you to be co-successor trustees. What do you guys think the problem is with having two co-successor trustees? Right, we got to get along, right? And, you know, I love my sister, but we don't always see eye to eye on everything. One of us is a Democrat, one of us is a Republican. So we don't always get along on everything. And if I want to sell the house as is after mom and dad die, and my sister wants to fix it up, can I sell it without her? No. Co-successor trustees must work together. So what I always recommend is if your kids get along very well, they can work together. But if they don't get along now, don't make them work together. They're not going to get along better when you're gone, I promise. So in my family, ultimately, my mother chose me as their number one choice. My sister is the alternate, and my Aunt Seal is the alternate to the alternate. Okay, so the successor trustee, this is the person that pays all the final bills, cuts all the checks, deals with the realtor if the house is going to be sold. If the kids are going to keep the house, this is the person that does all the paperwork. Okay, last definition. There's a special word for someone who inherits from a trust. It is called a beneficiary, same as always. Your kids, they can be your beneficiary, but you don't have to leave your kids anything, okay? This is your decision. Your grandkids can be beneficiaries. Does anybody have children who are minors in the family? Anybody? Yeah, you can say, hey kid, you're gonna get the money, but you're not gonna get it until you turn 25 years old. You can use the money for your college or your education or your health care, but you don't get a lump sum until you're 25. You can also stagger how much they get. Give them a monthly allowance, give them a yearly allowance, cut up the inheritance so they can't blow it too fast. You can leave money for your friends. You can leave money for your church, charities, that works. You get to leave money to whoever you choose. And you get to decide how they get the money and when. So if you have kids that maybe are spenders, you know, you can help protect them from themselves. If you have any kids that are special needs, we can make sure that they are protected so that they can have their inheritance and keep their government benefits. And the best part about this is there is no court involvement. Your successor trustee only needs the binder and a death certificate and has all the power they need to do your wishes without any overhead at all. They have everything and they need in this binder ready to go. They could hire a lawyer to help them, but they don't need a lawyer. This is it. It's totally private. So $799 is all it costs to make sure that your family does not go through probate and has power. There's a question. Does the successor trustee have to be a family member? No. Can you assign a professional at your firm? Yes. I have some clients who, especially the gals that, the guys or the gals that didn't get married, don't have kids, but they have real estate and they want to leave their stuff to, let's say, charities or their church when they pass away. Some people have hired their pastor to be the successor trustee, or their next door neighbor to be the successor trustee, or even their lawyer to be the successor trustee. And that is totally allowed. Especially for those of you that maybe have kids that are minors, you know, the kids aren't old enough to do the money stuff yet. So sometimes people have their best friend in charge of the money. This also reminds me, if you have kids that are minors, included in the paperwork, not only do we say how the kids get the money, but we're going to say who gets custody of the kids so that they don't have to go to CPS. They don't have to go to Child Protective Services. We know who's going to get custody of the kids right away. No questions asked. That's all included in the $799 package. Is there an extra fee to assign you as the lawyer as the successor trustee? Yes. I am your last choice to be your successor trustee, because your family knows you and they love you and they will do it for free, and I charge a fee. So talk to me a little bit after about that and I'll explain how the fees work, because that doesn't apply to most people. Okay, so I want to talk about what else is included in the $799 package. So remember how I was telling you that when my parents passed, I had to go through the mail, the computer, the office, the filing cabinets, try to figure out where their finances were. I don't want your family to guess where everything is. I want them to know where all your finances are. So included in your binder, I'm going to have a list of all your assets. This is going to include, and I'm going to type it in here, checking, savings, stocks, bonds, money market, your real estate, your businesses, your 401k. I know a lot of you have retirement, IRAs, annuities, life insurance, stuff you maybe haven't thought about in a while. But I want your family to know where everything is, because if you have life insurance and your family doesn't know you have it, the life insurance company is not going to volunteer that information. They're just going to keep the money. They would prefer it if your family never called them. So I want your family to have a list of everything that you own so they know where to go get their inheritance from. Is anybody here married? Anybody in here married? Yeah, okay. We're gonna do both scenarios. I want to talk about what happens if you get sick. And I know a lot of married people think, well, if I get Alzheimer's, my spouse will be able to take care of me, you know? And they don't realize that that's not always the case. Now, I'm going to use my parents as the example. Let's say my parents are procrastinating. They have no will, they have no trust, they have no documents, and dad gets diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's. Can somebody with dementia sign legal documents? No way, right? No way. It's for their own good. We don't want them to get taken advantage of. So the rule is, as soon as they are diagnosed by a doctor as not having capacity, dad can't sign stuff anymore. So if dad wants to sign a contract, he can't. If he wants to sign a trust, he can't. He can't sign a will. He can't sign a financial power of attorney. He can't even sign a check anymore. It's for his own good. This is for Josie and Rosalinda. If mom and dad's names are both on the deed and mom wants to sell the house to put dad in a nursing home, do you think the house can be sold?
Good question. I don't think so.
If he can't sign,
If you
You're
don't
right.
have a trust.
You're right. If there's two names on the deed, two people have to sell, two people have to sign. And if dad has Alzheimer's or dementia, he's not allowed to sign. Mom can only sell her half of the house. Ladies, has anybody ever bought a half of a house before? No, I mean, no. People always think that if I get sick, my spouse can just take care of me. And the answer is nope. Unfortunately, that is a myth. Unfortunately, a lot of people with COVID are learning this reality. We've heard the case of both husband and wife gets COVID and one is not doing well. And the healthy spouse is in a panic. And unfortunately, it's too late. So, what I do in this trust package, my trust says, if you become incapacitated, your spouse has the legal authority to be able to sign on your behalf for everything. The house, the bank accounts, everything. The thing is, you have to sign this before you get sick. You have to sign this when you're clear-minded, totally healthy. So my dad, we have got to have him sign something like this before he gets sick. And if he's already sick, it's too late. Now, I'm also going to include a financial power of attorney that's included in this package. This says, once again, says it again, if dad gets sick, mom's in charge. And if mom can't do it, we've got backup choices. In my family, it says mom's in charge. If mom can't do it, Sarah's in charge. Denise is the backup. Aunt Seal's the backup to the backup. So that way, if one of the spouses becomes incapacitated, the healthy one has the legal authority. And if we're down to one spouse, or if you're single, you get to decide who's doing your finances if you get sick, but you have to sign it before you get sick. So I've got all the documents in here. People always think of a trust like it's just for death, but it's really for incapacity and for sickness too. I see you got some questions in the chat. Let me get to these. We're going to talk about I'm going to get to this question in a second, so hold tight on your question. Okay, so the other document that I've got included in this binder is a healthcare directive. This is the pull the plug stuff. You know, if you're a vegetable, do you want to stay on life support or be taken off life support? And it also includes things like if you can't speak, who's allowed to talk to the doctors, and backup choices and backup choices. That's all included in this binder. Now, does anybody here own more than 3 pieces of real estate? Chime in if you own more than 3 pieces of real estate. That includes timeshares. Anybody have more than 3? The reason that I'm asking is because the $7.99 package will include me doing documents to get 3 pieces of property into your trust free of charge. I'll do the paperwork for 3. But if you have more than 3, I charge $50 for the extras. Okay. Okay, so here's how our process. Ingrid, do you have a question? Okay. Okay. So here's how our process works if you decide you want to sign up today. I'm going to put the number on the screen here. Lisa in my office is going to be answering calls for 1 hour after the seminar is over. If you call her and you give her your credit card information, she is going to be providing you with a contract. And the contract says everything that's included: the trust, the will, power of attorney, healthcare directives, deeds. She's also going to be giving you a worksheet. This is basically a questionnaire. And I know some attorneys will have you come to the office to fill out the questionnaire, but I give you the questionnaire to fill out at home. And that way I don't have to charge you what the other attorneys are charging. So this questionnaire is 8 pages long, and it asks things about your family tree. It asks about your finances and your real estate. And some of you will fill this out within about 1 hour. And some of you will take your time doing it. And you're going to wait until next week to do it, or until next month, or until the end of the summer, or you're going to wait until Christmas time to do it. And that's okay. You can fill this worksheet out when you're ready. You have unlimited time. But I need you to give it back to me when you're done so I can type the trust. So, and it takes me 3 weeks to type a trust. So if you have a vacation planned coming up, or you have surgery coming up, just know that it takes me 3 weeks to type your trust. So I need you to fill out the worksheet as soon as you can. Now, I have a guy that hired me 9 years ago to do his living trust, and he just recently submitted the paperwork. And that's fine. I'm still going to type the trust for him, but he's lucky nothing happened to him in the last 9 years. He's not a spring chicken, you know? So as soon as I type the trust for you, I will be sending you this binder to your house so you can read it. I want you to read it before we send the notaries over to sign everything. My notary is going to come to your house and is going to sign and notarize this document with you in your house. There's some COVID restrictions we have right now, but everything's starting to open up. So, and we're almost all vaccinated in the office. So the notaries will come to your house and sign this. And the notaries are going to help you with your homework. The notary is going to show you. They're going to come over and they're going to say, hey, this is your new deed to put your house in the trust. This deed needs to get mailed to Orange County. This deed needs to get mailed to Los Angeles County. They're going to tell you where it's got to go. And they're also going to tell you, hey, Orange County is going to charge you about $25 to record this. Write a check. Let's send it right now while I'm here. Now, every county charges a different fee. This is the only fee that I do not include in my service, is the recording fees. But most fees are about $30. So you can probably anticipate about $30 for recording fees if it's your primary. If it's your rental property, the fee may be a little bit more. Okay, so let's, yes, absolutely. Riverside, San Bernardino. If you have property that's in like Vegas or in Hawaii, the recording fees are different everywhere. When my notary comes over, they're going to have a list with them of exactly what the fee is to let you know. For example, if you have property in New York, it might cost $200. If you have property in Clark County, it costs about $13. So the notary will let you know that additional fee, and they're going to help you with that part. Basically, we hold your hand through that process, so don't worry. Now, I want to talk about taxes a little bit. Sorry, guys, we got to do it real quick. Okay, so there's a couple different taxes I want to talk about today. But in order to explain the first type of tax, I'm going to use my parents as the example. And you remember how I told you that my parents like to do sneaky little things to try to avoid fees? They look for the loopholes. So my dad said to me, Sarah, I don't need a trust. I don't need a will. I don't need any of that stuff. I have a loophole. And I said, oh, really, Dad? What's your plan? He said, Sarah, I'm going to put your name on the deed right now while me and your mom are still living as a joint tenant. This is a message for my realtors here, for Josie and Rosalinda. If mom and dad create a new deed and they add me to the deed as a joint owner, how much of the house do I now own?
1/3.
1/3. And if mom and dad are alive and they want to sell the house, how many signatures are needed?
2.
If there's 3 names on the deed, 3 signatures are needed. What if mom and dad want to move out of their beautiful house in Santa Ana in Floral Park? They want to move to Leisure World in Seal Beach. And I don't want them to move because I want that house in Floral Park. And I don't want them to sell, and I'm not signing. Can they sell the house without me?
No.
What if I'm driving around drunk and I run over someone with my car and I kill them? Can they come after my 1/3 of the house?
Yeah.
Yep. So mom and dad, if mom and dad both pass away and I'm a joint tenant, do I have to go to court to get full ownership of the house?
No.
You're right, no. Because my name is already on the deed and it said joint owner, and joint owner means equal right of survivorship. So it is a good loophole to avoid probate because I inherited the house. But also my problems are now mom and dad's problems. They need my permission to sell the house. But what's more important is the year mom and dad put me on the deed, they have given me 1/3 of a house. What's it called when you give someone something? A gift. And what are gifts subject to? Gift tax. Yep. So if mom and dad think they're so brilliant, they're trying to look for the loophole, right? And they add my name to the deed on April 9th of 2021. Guess what? Next April, gift tax is due. And I don't pay the tax. The person that gives the gift pays the tax. Crazy, right? Most people didn't know that. I know you know a lot of people that have added their kid to the deed and they didn't know they had to pay gift tax, and that is called tax fraud. So don't add your kid to the deed. But I'm going to tell you one other reason why I do not want you to add your kid to the deed. And this has to do with, once again, taxes. But this is a different type of tax. We're going to talk about capital gains. Now, capital gains tax is, I'm going to kind of use my parents as the example. When mom and dad bought the house, they bought it for roughly $100 grand. And today it's worth roughly $1 million. And if they were to sell the house while they're still alive, they would have made a $900,000 profit. And Uncle Sam would say, hey, whoa, 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 you sold your house? You made $900,000 profit? I want a piece. I want approximately 30% of that $900,000. So Uncle Sam is going to come gunning looking for $300,000 in taxes. Now, there are some ways around these taxes. There are some loopholes for certain people in certain circumstances. But Uncle Sam's going to be watching very closely. Now, if mom and dad, if you're like my parents, mom and dad are never going to sell the house. Their goal is to live there the rest of their lives. They're going to keep the house until the day they die. If they keep the house until the day they die, and they just hold on to that house, and we inherit that house after they're gone, we have to pay $0 in capital gains tax because mom and dad take their taxes to the grave. It is a theory called step up in basis. The idea is if you own an asset and it goes up in value while you're alive, if you pass away, you take your taxes to the grave and the family inherits tax-free. They can sell the house and they will pay 0 in taxes. This is true for your rental. This is true for your timeshares, for your primary, and for your stocks. If you own an asset and it goes up in value and you die, you take your taxes to the grave. Mom and dad would have saved us $300,000 if they hang on to that house. But if dad's trying to be sneaky and he adds my name to the deed while he's still alive, it's like I was with him when he bought it. Now I'm on the hook for the taxes again. So he just cost me $300,000 because he thought he was being sneaky. Do not add your kid to the deed, okay? Their problems are your problems, and there are step up in basis taxes. There's a question in the margin. My mom's neighbor recently passed away, and I believe his house is going to probate. I also believe he had a reverse mortgage or had taken out or had money taken out. We are considering the idea of buying it as a rental property only if it makes sense financially. How would this work? Do you somehow get alerted as to when the house is done with the probate or goes on the market? No, not really. I wish. They have to be completely finished with the probate before they can sell the house. And they're going to sell the house when they feel like it. And there is no indicator for you that they're going to sell it. But good luck in this market. Woo, you're in for it. So, yeah. Okay, so I also want to talk about one other tax today. We want to talk about inheritance tax. And I'm going to try to keep it really simple. The rule is if you are the average American person and you pass away, there is 0 inheritance tax. But if you're wealthy, 40% will go to Uncle Sam when you die. Your family gets to keep the other 60%. So the question is, who's wealthy? Who's average and who's wealthy? Now, under President Obama, you are considered poor if you had under $5.5 million. If you're married, you're poor if you had under 11 mil. So if you are poor, there's no taxes for your family. So luckily for most of us that have under 5.5 mil, there's no inheritance tax we need to worry about. But under President Donald Trump, he changed the rules and he said that you have to pay 0 taxes if you have under $11 million as a single person, and there is 0 taxes if you have under 22 mil if you're married. Does anybody here have over $11 million? Raise your hand if you do. It's like crazy, right? So it doesn't necessarily always matter if it was Obama or Biden or Trump, that's the president. Most of us aren't near those numbers. And President Biden has talked about doing it back the way it was under Obama. But we just don't know, and it doesn't look like it would go through Congress. Okay, so let's say you get your trust done and you send in all your paperwork and I type up the trust and I send the notaries to your house, and sometime in, I don't know, let's say May, everything is signed and notarized and finished. What happens if next Christmas you get in a fight with one of your beneficiaries and you want to take them out of the trust? You don't want them to inherit anymore. Some people think it's a good idea to just cross off names out of the book. And my rule is don't write in your book, okay? It's not legal, it's not proper. If you need to make a modification to a trust that I have drafted for you, I charge $100 for an amendment. That is when we change people. Take people out, put new people in, change what they're getting, change who's in charge. I charge $100. And normally, if you call me and you say, Sarah, I need a change to my trust, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to charge you $100. So let's do all the changes at once, right? Did anybody get married? Were any new kids born into the family? Let's do everything at once. Since I only charge $100 to sit at my computer and type it, let's get it all done at one time. Now, if you already have a living trust from another attorney and you think you want to update the trust because it doesn't say what you want it to say anymore, and maybe that old attorney died or he retired or he just charges way too much, what I do is I still charge $7.99, but I'm going to go through the old trust. We're going to revise it, and it's still $7.99. It's not more just because you have an existing trust, but I'm going to give you a brand new binder, and it is going to supersede everything that you have. Now, if you have an old trust, if it says all the people you want it to say, do you really need an update? Well, that depends. My rule is if the trust was done before Obama, it probably needs to be updated because that's when the tax laws changed dramatically. But if you got your trust done while Obama was in presidency or during Donald Trump, it's probably still valid and up to date. So I hope that answers your question in the margin. Does the trust get updated through the years? Do we have to remember to keep you updated somehow? Also, I assume there's a fee to update the trust later on. Okay, so some attorneys have like these reoccurring yearly charges to update your trust. I do not have any yearly reoccurring charges. If the law changes, I send out a newsletter to everyone in my client database that tells them, hey, the law changed. We need to update your trust. It's $100, but it's really worth it. So I will let you know if the laws have changed. But if the people change, you got to call me. You know, if you get in a fight with somebody or if you get remarried or one of the girls changes their last name, let me know. Do I have any other questions so far? What happens when you buy and sell real estate throughout the years? Good question. Okay, so I was telling you, I'm going to give you a list of all your assets that are going to be included in this book. But people change accounts all the time, right? I mean, you know, I had a CD at Bank of America, and then when the CD matured, I brought it over to Schools First, and I got a new CD. Whenever you acquire a new bank account, I want you to include the new statement in your binder so your family knows where to go look. I also want you to show the banker a copy of your living trust. They are going to put the new bank account into your trust the day you open the new account. It's the same thing for if you're buying new real estate. Josie and Rosalinda, when you are purchasing a house for somebody and you're helping a buyer, have they ever said to you, hey, I have a living trust already and I want the house to go into my living trust? Yeah. So if you tell the realtor, they're going to make sure that the house is titled in the name of the trust the day you purchase it. You don't have to notify me of anything, okay? As long as you tell your realtor, that's the only thing that needs to happen. Okay, so I had some other questions. You guys are, by the way, these questions are fantastic. Okay. If you sell a house or if you get rid of an asset, you don't have to update anything in here. It's just gone. It's not a part of your life anymore, okay? Okay, what happens if the trust is misplaced? Ingrid, go ahead. No, okay. What happens if the trust is misplaced, not able to locate, or lost? Okay, so I know in my law firm, I have a copy of every trust I've ever drafted for a client. I have the unsigned digital copy. Now, when my notary comes to your house, they're only going to be signing and notarizing one book. And this book is going to stay at your house. This is the only book that has the ink signatures. So yeah, you should take care of this book. But if you want to run a copy and give it to your kid, a photocopy of the book is just as good as the ink signatures. Can you scan it and keep it on the cloud? Sure, absolutely. I only charge $7.99, so I don't provide the cloud services for clients. But if you want to, scan it and keep it on your, in your emails or something, some people email it to themselves, so that way they can reprint it wherever they are in the world. That's allowed. The trust only lives with the client and with the lawyer. It doesn't live anywhere else. It is totally private. So it's not like it's at some courthouse somewhere or in some vault somewhere. So Vera, I hope that answers your question. Would the living trust be the one and the same as a special needs trust? Okay, if you have a kid or if you have a family member that's special needs and they are like, I'll give you the prime example. We have a little kid who has MS and he's receiving government aid for his housing, for his medical, and for his food. It's possible to leave that kid inheritance, and it's possible that as long as we phrase it correctly, he's allowed to keep his inheritance and his benefits. I will create what is called a special needs trust that lives within your trust, that is special for that kid, that says, hey, this kid's going to inherit some money. We know they're on benefits right now from the government. We want them to get their benefits and to keep their inheritance. So a special needs trust lives within your trust, and it does not cost more money. That is included. When you get my worksheet, you're going to see there's a page that's going to ask you, hey, is anybody in your family special needs? Because we have to do special words for that person within your trust. Do I have any other questions? You guys are asking really, really good questions, by the way. I know some of you have been thinking about doing this for a long time. So anybody else?
I think you've been great.
Thank you.
So good information.
Thank you.
Sarah, one you mentioned last time for the parents, if they go to like when they get older, if they go to like a nursing home, maybe medical benefits, that type of stuff.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Good. Thank you for bringing this up. Okay. So we got to talk about nursing home bills, because it's getting very expensive to get older. I mean, in this state, especially, a lot of people, they hear these horror stories. The senior citizen went into the nursing home and they had to sell the house and they took all the money and they, had nothing left for the family when they were gone, because the nursing home is a drain, right? They're so expensive. The average nursing home around here is like $10,000 a month. So, California created all these new laws for Medi-Cal, because what was happening is the nursing homes were saying, hey, senior citizen, we know you have Alzheimer's, we know you have dementia, but you can't stay with us until you pay your bill. And if you run out of cash, just go sell your house and we don't care. And if that person wanted to go home, there was nowhere for them to go home to. And so unfortunately, we had people that were not happy with their nursing home and they would leave. And then we had homeless senior citizens. They had no money. They had no house to go home to. So the rules were changed that said, if you go into a nursing home, you don't have to sell your house if you run out of cash. You could stay in the nursing home and keep your house in case you want to go home. But if you run out of cash, Medi-Cal will pick up the tab. And when you die, that's when the home has to be sold. And we want our money back. But at least you can keep the house while you're alive, just in case. So these seniors were going into the nursing home and they were there for, it wouldn't take very long before they would run out of cash and they would go on Medi-Cal. And then the tab would start running. And by the time they died, the kids would sell the house, pay off Medi-Cal, and then there was nothing left, you know? Okay, so the good news is, you know, senior citizens vote, right? So seniors voted. It was January 1st, 2017, the new Medi-Cal laws were changed. Here's what the law says. If you have a house and you go into a nursing home and you run out of cash, you don't have to sell your house. Medi-Cal will pick up the tab. When you die, Medi-Cal is gonna want their money back. But if you have your house in a living trust, they can't look at it. They can't touch it at all. Your kids get to keep the house free and clear. Yes. So if you have the $799 trust, you never have to worry about the nursing home taking your house. All right. It's amazing. Now, this has been really good for my business, obviously, because lots of people want to get their trust done, especially when they know they're going into a nursing home soon. And you know, the rule is you have to sign this while you're healthy, right? You have to sign it while you're competent. If you're going into a nursing home, chances are it's because you're not competent anymore. So we have to plan for the worst. I'm planning for Alzheimer's. We're planning for dementia. We are planning for strokes. We are planning for COVID. You have to sign this before you get sick. That's the catch. That's the only way this works. Does it work when someone is already sick? My dad has Alzheimer's. Would mom be able to do a trust now? Both are owners of the house. It depends. The answer is it depends. And it's going to depend if your dad has ever signed any legal documents before he got sick. Also depends on how bad your dad's Alzheimer's diagnosis is. Some people have Alzheimer's and it's, you know, they're like a little fuzzy and they're still okay. But some people have Alzheimer's and they don't know their own name. So it's going to depend. LD, you may want to call my office to discuss this a little bit further because the answer is it depends. Do I have any other questions? Okay, if I don't have any other questions, okay, so here's what I want to do. If you guys are interested in getting this living trust, I want to just read to you what the contract says. Like I said, you're going to have 1 hour to call Lisa with the credit card number if you're interested. And Lisa can also answer any questions you have. The contract says the estate plan includes the following documents: revocable trust, last will and testament, financial power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, certification of trust, and asset transfer documentation. Price shall include preparation of 3 deeds. Additional deeds shall cost $50 per deed. Notary services provided free of charge. Okay, here's the last part. You can't see it, but it's in bold. If you sign up, you will get a copy of this. It says, purchaser shall have 1 year from the date of purchase to get a full refund. If you sign up today, because you want to get the $799 price, but then you change your mind and you want your money back, you have 1 year to get your money back. I'm like Nordstrom's, I take returns. Okay. However, after 1 year, no refund shall be issued. After I've delivered your trust, if I type your trust and I send it to your house, I'm keeping the money, okay? However, purchaser has an indefinite time to submit your worksheet. Okay, so you've got 1 year if you want to get, can the price be expended in 1 hour is somewhat of a crunch for most people. Like I was saying before, I'm happy to do your trust for $1,598. That's the normal price, but the $799 price is only going to be offered for 1 hour after the seminar. You have to be in the group to get the group rate. Any other questions? Okay, thank you ladies for coordinating. By the way, Josie, Rosalinda, and Gina are amazing for doing this. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we finish about living trust, or, you know, any cautionary tales, anything you've kind of experienced before?
It just is something that is very important, and any homeowner or anybody with assets should have one.
Okay, so I'm going to be putting my information on here again. And Lisa is standing by for 1 more hour after this chat. But ladies, thank you so much for hosting this. And thank you to everybody who showed up today. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something. I'd be happy to get this trust done for you. You know, we've just experienced, as a world, we've just experienced some crazy stuff this year. So please don't wait until it's too late. That's all I can say is we want to do your trust for you when you're healthy, clear-minded, and not in an emergency situation. Okay, so stop procrastinating and let's get it done. So
Thank you very much. Very informative.
thanks, Vera. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to put this on mute for just a little while until everybody logs up so you guys can copy down the information on the side if you'd like. Thank you all, everybody, for coming, and have a great weekend. And please stay safe and go get your vaccine.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Very good.
Bye.